On Tuesdays, as you probably already know, the Geek Squad sits here to talk about tech, its impact on society, its impact on you, and its impact on everything. Because, yes, technology is the wave that's ruling the world as we know it. And with that, we're talking about the impact of social media on elections. I'm sure you probably figured that out considering what's happening in the world, specifically Africa, more specifically Nigeria. Yeah, our closest English speaking neighbors. So, yeah, we want to know how social media is impacting politics, elections, so many other dynamics in that. And I'll be here with Michael, Winston, the usual suspect. And as you probably heard if you were listening to the news, Evan Spencer will be joining us as our political analyst. So he'll be giving us a political point of view of things, and then we will be analyzing things from the technical or the technological point of things. My name is Kobby Spiky Nkrumah. You're tuned in to Joy 99.7 FM. And don't go anywhere. If you have to, make sure that you pick up your phone, open the MyJoy Online app, open our Dome Online app, or if you can go to YouTube, or you can go on Facebook, look for us. We are hashtag Joy Geek Squad. We'll be live there as well. So if you're not chasing us on radio, you can follow us on the internet. We'll be right back after these commercials to talk about tech. Like I said earlier, the show is Geek Squad and it's a tech show. We like to break down technology and bring it closer to you wherever you are, in your car, at home, in school, in your bed, wherever. You can follow us on Twitter with the hashtag Joy Geek Squad. You can follow us on Telegram. We have a group there. Just type in your browser t.me/Joy Geek Squad. Will come up, or you can just search hashtag Joy Geek Squad. Or you can find any of our older episodes on Facebook, on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, every podcast platform. Just Google search with the hashtag Joy Geek Squad. We're there. So today, as I mentioned, we're talking about the impact of social media on elections. We're analyzing what's happening, and we'll definitely be drawing some things that are happening we'll be referencing some things happening in Nigeria, since that's the very immediate elections happening. And you're probably following the Nigerian elections on social media, because where else? You don't have Nigerian TV. If you do, it's probably illegal. So yes, Winston, Michael, hi.
Greetings, hello listeners.
Yeah.
And viewers.
Yeah, hello listeners and viewers. Michael, have you ever voted?
Have I ever voted?
Yeah.
I mean, on online polls or mini elections.
Elections. Of course I'm talking about elections.
I've done both, yes.
Winston, have you ever voted?
No, I have not.
Why? Are you not of age?
Because the interesting thing is that I actually do peruse the manifestos, and none of them ever seem satisfactory.
None of the candidates.
Yeah, so I don't particularly believe in choosing the lesser of two evils per se, especially when it comes to a manifesto, because I feel like at the end of the day, posits the good thing. Why do we have to choose between two evils when we could have two great things that we are
There's
picking
not
the
only
better?
two political parties.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the debates and stuff like that, and I'm not impressed, because this is just my personal take. I have this saying that any form of social intervention that comes wrapped in a manifesto is never going to do well.
Interesting.
And most of these manifestos come tailored with a lot of social intervention things, and I'm like, nah.
So, well, to the listeners out there who are Winstons or Michaels, we're discussing how social media impacts elections. And whether you like it or not, social media and politics are inseparable. And it's because a lot of political discourse happens on platforms like Twitter. And over the years, we've seen like the US consume a lot of political news via social media. We've seen that happen in Ghana, and we're seeing that happen in Nigeria. And I was on a Twitter space yesterday that had been going on for 3 days, where they were analyzing the whole election. And you have debates going on social media, you have fundraisers going on social media, you have fact checking going on social media, because it's it's very likely that in a circumstance like that, people would start to spread fake news. Oh, there's violence here. So you need someone on the ground. What better way than having someone on the ground sending pictures saying that, hey, I'm here. Said violence is not happening as is being,
Reported.
reported on social media. So every candidate considers the stakes high on social media. So rather than they wait for stories to be published, the politicians themselves break their news on social media. We've seen our very, very, very famous, or should I say infamous, Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, I think the
Utilize-
word is infamous.
Yeah. Utilize social media to the
Very interestingly.
max. Like he used it. He is a case study
Yeah.
of sorts, because clearly we've all been we've all been witnesses to the fact that Donald J. Trump won the elections via social media,
Yes.
right or wrong.
Yes.
So now, really, the question is, how are politicians navigating social media? How are we, the people who are going to do the voting, navigating social media? How are we consuming social media? And how does social media really impact the elections? And we will have Evans join us. He's currently on TV. He left radio, going on TV, then he's coming back to Geek Squad. So yeah, you understand how our work works. But in the interim, Michael, Winston, and I will analyze it. I find it very interesting that Winston, who's never voted, would have an opinion on this.
In
Have an
Winston's
opinion on what?
defense, he is very interested in data.
Well,
and how
true.
it affects
Yeah.
basically human lives, which is essentially that's what elections are at the end.
Yes.
Like
yes.
literal 1 to 2 day exercises of mass data movement and analysis and
Yeah.
results giving.
I mean, elections are an extreme sentiment analysis that the effects of which are felt immediately after the data is collated. So that in itself is extremely interesting.
I mean,
Cool.
Immediately is a strong word, but yeah.
I mean, it is immediate after they announce the winner.
No,
We are
in the
moving
case where
where okay, data had. I mean, they went to court. That's happened only twice. I was gonna say okay, it's happened only successfully once, and the idea has been thrown out there twice.
So, let me ask you, Michael, first, then you, Winston. Do you honestly think that social media has transformed political campaigns?
Absolutely.
The campaigns themselves?
Absolutely.
Do you think it has an effect?
Yeah. Using the Nigerian elections, you can even use what's happened with Peter Obi's campaign
Right.
as a immediate past quick example to look at. It was largely based off social media. People wanted it. You can even trace it back. Some might even trace it back to the NSAS movement way back, which was, one would call it our West African Arab Spring. And you can trace as far back as there, where at least things literally spawned off the back of social media and became a force on their own. And don't forget, Nigeria's social media population is bigger than the entire population of Ghana.
Yeah.
Altogether.
Facts.
So you can tell that it's going to have a huge impact there, things that go on online.
Right.
And in this case, a campaign for essentially calling for change.
Yeah.
And now someone came out like, I am that voice for change. I am here. I hear you. Would you give me your votes? And it spirals from there. Now we all saw the Peter Obi campaign spiral. And yes, he's doing traditional campaigning on the ground, going around seeing people as he should. But a lot of it is also being done online. And in marketing, we have some things. When it comes to media and advertising, there are 3 broad types. There's media you own, media you pay for, and media you earn. Right? Obviously, media you own, is the normal thing. Media you earn, advertisements, things online. Then the most difficult, but the most coveted, is media that is earned, where people then give you the attention, give you their platform, speak on your behalf. It's not always for the good. It's not always for your good, but the fact is, people give you the attention. Social media the most important thing is people's attention, for good or for ill. So Peter Obi had that, or even you can say has it, and people are talking about him. Not necessarily, not always in his favor, but the fact they're talking about him means that he's seen, and then that can easily translate to more people seeing him and deciding, you know what, I might give this candidate a try.
Yeah.
Let me vote for him. He's not someone I've seen before. I didn't see his traditional campaigns, but I've seen it online right now. Maybe he's what I want. So yeah, the impact is very strong, and that's an example. Recently, right now, this has been going on for years now.
Now, I would like to, corroborate your statement, because I actively try to avoid any kind of politics. And so I really try to stay away from anything, because I wanted to see what would spring out to me, for lack of a better term, to describe the situation. But I only knew about Peter Obi. I didn't hear from anyone. I didn't read from anywhere. It just sprang out to me on social media. And that was the only name I knew about in the Nigerian election up until yesterday. I never paid attention to any other candidates. I never lent my ears. I never went reading. But some way, somehow, I was following a thread, and then Peter Obi came up, and I'm like, oh, he's a candidate. And as you said, everything that he stood for suddenly started reaching me when I didn't go searching. So whomever is in charge of Peter Obi's social media campaign did a splendid job for someone like me who knows nothing about the election to hear and find out, or passively learn about Peter Obi, not even actively, very passively learn about him, is very interesting.
Credit goes as well to Peter Obi himself. The message that people are taking from him, because that's the thing with earned media. But once your media is earned, people willingly give you their attention and speak on your behalf. That is it. You've essentially hit. It's the opposite. Well, one would call it the opposite. Or no, let me take it back. It's not the opposite. An effect we usually hear of in more recent times is being cancelled. But it's essentially the same thing, which ironically people say, you're cancelling someone, and then rather than the person's persona or even notoriety going away from the internet, everyone is now talking about the person. Notoriety has increased. It's essentially, it is the same thing. For good or for ill, the person has earned your attention, and more importantly, your willingness to speak about them. Or even in some cases to them, because when they start mentioning you, then that's when your mentions start exploding. But the thing is, you are the attention focus, and for good or for ill, this is what happens. Heck, you even reach for seeing it in threads. Our car group, now we share. He's been mentioned in there a few times, even before the election. None of his rivals have been mentioned, if maybe once in a while as a quick joke or as a video, but most of the time he's in there. Of course, for our resident Nigerians speaking on his behalf, or sometimes not even him, other people referencing. We are more concerned as to whose car is leaking the most oil, not necessarily a political campaign.
Winston.
Yeah.
So yeah, same. How do you think social media has transformed political campaigns and elections?
I think there's a very... So since Michael has talked about the positive, I think it only makes sense for me to dive into the other side. So the interesting thing about social media, which is what people who are listeners, I'm sure you've heard the word, the algorithm. The algorithm has done this. Now, so basically the algorithm is just a software, a line of code. And in this case, what this algorithm is supposed to do is feed you more of what you want, or what you like, or what they think you like because of your connections, where be it your friends on Facebook or the people you follow on Instagram. Or so, using you as an example, the reason you probably saw Peter Obi was because of the people you followed, your followers, or even the people you are following on Twitter. That's why it came into view, and then that in itself posits the problem of a bias. It does create a bias, because you are being fed what someone thinks you like. And since you never got
someone things I like or what I actually like because it's influenced
based on
by
your based
my
on your
trends.
trends, yes, it presumes that you like this. But I mean, in truth, you would also like to know everybody else, wouldn't you? So that you can so that you make your own choice. It's if sometimes it feels like the choice has been made for you. So that's when it's like you're feeding into the bias. And people like to say that, oh, I go out of my way to explore other things, but there's something called bias reinforcement,
Right.
which is where you go out to go and look for more information to use it as a buttress point for your choice. So social
And
media,
you would eventually find more things that you favor because the internet is
yes,
essentially
geared
tailored
towards
to feed you everything that you like.
So it's going to be. I mean, how many people are going to go extremely extreme, like take a whole new phone and and start doing their searches from that? Not a lot of people. That's asking too much. Even asking people to use incognito mode to do some of these searches, it's a bit much. And to me, my personal experiences, like for instance, I use the YouTube app on my TV, and I know for sure that it's picking off of my IP address because certain things I've watched on my TV without ever connecting my phone to my TV, because I make sure I don't do that, so there's a separation. I find some of those videos on my phone and I haven't even bothered to look at, but it's like it used the IP address. I'm guessing that. And I was like, okay, if it's the same IP address, it's the same household, they must like the same things. So here you go. So that's the only downside, or one of the few downsides to this entire thing for me, because it's like you are reinforcing biases. And we would like to welcome
Yes, we'd like to welcome Evans, our newly inducted geek. Hi, Evans.
Hey, old Tom.
Welcome to the Bits and Bytes
Yeah, man.
of Joy FM.
By the way, what's bits and bytes? Don't mind me. I know.
Yes, so I mean, you probably already know what we're discussing. We're discussing
No,
the
sure,
impact
of
of
course.
social media on elections, and I was just asking the squad how social media has transformed political campaigns and elections. Michael, care to summarize?
I think I know what he was talking about.
Okay, shoot. I'd really like to hear.
He was
this.
making the point that it's such an important tool. True or false?
Not too far.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, can you guess what Winston was also thinking about?
Something along the lines of same, right?
actually.
He was very, very on the opposite side.
Yeah, I had to-
That it's not important.
not that it's not an
Or
important
it's an exaggerated
to
tool.
know that it can exacerbate certain tendencies, certain biases can be fueled due to the existence of, like, let's say for instance, Accra here we did most. Excuse me, this is just a shot in the dark. I'm not taking shots at anybody, but Accra we did. I feel like a lot of people in Accra use Twitter, right? Would you like to know the number of social media users in Ghana as of this year?
2023. How many?
About 20%, a little under 20%, 19 point something.
The entire country.
Yeah, the entire
Okay,
country.
that's small.
That's small. Like Michael said, that's less than the entire social media. I mean, Ghana's population is less than the social media using population of Nigeria.
Right.
But when it comes to like certain politics on social media in Ghana, like the people, as we date Twitter, we feel like we will know everything
We
they
feel
happen.
like we are making the decision.
Yeah, but come on, that's not the case.
That's a drop in the ocean.
Yeah,
Because there are a lot of Winstons on there who are not voting. We're just talking.
come on, bro.
I mean, I had to.
No, but I think that's the biggest challenge with this, I need to side with him. I also agree with you that it sort of amplifies pre-existing stereotypes, but then also it can also trick you. That is, if you are the candidate in question. Except that the Barack Obama and Peter Obi phenomenons have taught us that there are times when the social media hype meets the reality on the ground. But in Ghana, we haven't seen that yet. And I always refer, I think in my life, that possibly the most effective social media mobilization has been Fix the Country. And there was a time when they had to translate the Twitter numbers, the hashtag numbers to the streets, and they could not. because they went to the street and the numbers didn't show. And so then you look at it and think that, okay, so when you write on social media in an election, will that same group, the numbers, the trending that you see, there's several thousands of people, sometimes even millions of people, will they vote when it comes to it? Obama showed us that it's possible, right? And Peter Obi is showing that it's possible also in Nigeria. Because as we speak right now, he's become a third force. There was never a third force in Nigeria until Peter Obi showed up. And Peter Obi's phenomenon is a pure social media phenomenon. They have a group of people called the Coconut Head Generation. They call themselves proudly Coconut Head. Those are the guys behind NSAS. They mobilized thousands of young people onto the street, forced the Nigerian security system to just disband SARS, right? And that same group of people, when they caught on to Peter Obi, use social media to galvanize support for him. And so, in fact, you'll be bold. You'll be a very bold, daring guy to go onto Twitter and go and challenge Peter Obi. They will just eat you alive,
decimate you.
right? And it is almost as if it's that they were doing what I call the social media lynching, right? Immediately you say something, you'll be lynched on social media. You dare not say anything about him. And then there was also the other group. So the two different groups, social media group, there's a Coconut Head Generation. And they call it Coconut Head Generation because thick heads, young people, we don't fear Foucault, Charlie, we don't listen, we just destroy the status quo. And then there was the obedience. The obedience, Obi.
Yeah.
Obedience.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
And they were proudly calling themselves obedience. And they were again all mobilized on social media. He's won Abuja today. Never happened before. He didn't only win, he won it by a landslide.
Wow.
Right? Never happened in Nigerian politics. He's won Lagos also, two of the biggest cities.
Wow.
And that tells you that the social media phenomenon, Nigeria is showing us that Obama showed us a long time ago.
Yeah.
But many said in Africa, people they like to be Twitter warriors. And that's it. And let's go onto the street. Charlie, I want to stay in my room, get my data, and do a hashtag. But Obi is showing us that he can move those numbers to vote for him. That is why I believe it's such a powerful tool now. And I think this Obi thing going forward will really change the way that perception. But the point he also made about the reinforcing setting, it's also true. So if you go on, if you went to challenge the obedience of the Coconut Head Generation on Twitter, right, and possibly raise it, because Obi is a Christian in Nigeria, the religious thing was deep. He's a Christian, he's a Muslim, and so that was always used against him and said, the Muslim North will not vote for him, and most of the southern part. And if you go on there and you try to sort of bring that up, the way they will come at you, it's what people have criticized. But then again, I'm thinking, but even if you take away the social media thing and you're just doing normal campaigning, isn't that the same?
Yeah.
Because if you dare go to an MPP rally and go and say NDC Chobwe, I will kill you. You know what I mean? Or go to a Bamia rally and go and say, Bama, you cry, you are not a Christian, right? You are asking for trouble.
Yeah.
So I think it's not okay. I think the social media just amplifies it, but it means that it's already there.
Yeah.
The social media just makes it. It's a very powerful tool actually. And if I ever go into politics, but I'll never do. I'll probably run my campaign.
Say that,
I run campaign entirely on social media.
but don't say that though. I mean,
you never know.
No, I wouldn't. Never know.
Well, you see, it's very interesting that he mentions this, and I like the fact that he likened it to the Fix the Country demonstration. Shout outs to Papi Rapid for one of the few people who actually went for the demonstration.
Oh, he went?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
great. No, I think that's what we need to do, man. We need to transferring that social media, Twitter savvy guys like you who know how to do the thing, transferring those numbers to the street and to votes. That's the only way that social media gets to bring up change, man.
There was an anecdote during the Fix the Country movement where people were trying to troop in and go, and then people were saying, how they are talking about it with the taxi drivers and truck drivers, and it's like, we've never heard of this thing before. Like, I know I've organized my day and I've gone with you, and that is the problem that, especially here, that social media has, especially politics, that people treat it as a separate thing. There's no, and like one was saying, that I think that it is like Accra we did. Meanwhile, I think it's the be or end of everything. Meanwhile, nobody knows beyond your
For the
walls,
last mile, that's it.
right?
But then I have a question, and I think Eugene, you might be the best person to answer this. Do you think? I hate to bring classism into this, but do you think that because largely I think it's the middle to upper classes that tend to be on certain
media.
social media platforms? I mean, Facebook is open to almost, or I presume many people.
It's become more ubiquitous.
But I feel like the Twitters, where I mean, no matter how we like to dress it, Twitter has become the new cultural ground for conversations about any and all things. And it's setting the trends, whether I like it or not. Do you think that that's the reason why the translation in Ghana, the translation is not happening? Because in Nigeria, I feel like across there's a more representative spread of those who use these social media platforms as opposed to in Ghana, where it feels a bit more niche based.
That's a perfect example of that. Evans, help me remember this. 2 administrations ago,
Yeah.
what protest was it that was happening on the Independence Avenue that went to
The Jubilee House.
Jubilee House, and then the police.
Yeah.
Is it that one?
Yeah, but then they were stopped just outside Jubilee House, and eventually,
The people came to meet them.
yes,
That will be Occupy Flagstaff House.
yes, that Occupy Flagstaff House. Do you remember that there was a comment that was passed for someone who saw the Occupy Flagstaff House? And like everyone was, cause on Twitter it was huge, like, oh yeah, the Occupy Flagstaff House, let's go there and have this thing. And then this person saw it and was like, is that it?
You're right. There's a minister
Yeah.
who passed the comment that he mentioned some outrageous small number.
Some small
Yeah.
number. Because because when you saw the amplification online, it's like, oh, this thing is going to be big. And this was just after the Arab Spring, so you're expecting something like that. Because when you talk of protests online and things like that, you see that the streets are filled.
Oh, yeah.
So I think, oh man, these people are really, really hot and talk about this thing, and they're probably talking to others so the message gets out there and they'll really get out there. And so they're like, the math is
It's small.
the math is in
I remember.
So, okay.
So,
But he said something. I think he also just said something that just struck me. The question he asked. I mean, you mentioned Arab Spring. I remember back I was in school, and interestingly, my dissertation was on this conversation. I had a London School of Economics, because that was a time when the Arab Spring thing was heavy, and social media was the main tool for mobilization, and they mobilized the people to Tahrir Square. This was the Egyptian one. They were there for days, for weeks, thousands of young people, and then it wasn't Twitter so much as Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was more Facebook, and then Twitter, of course, came in. Now, of course, Twitter is, as he said, is true. And I think the point he makes is relevant. I doubt if in Ghana, the same social media tool can deliver those same numbers onto the street that way we've
We
seen
don't
in.
have that present. We don't have that population on there.
But I guess that's the point he was making about
Yeah, the classes
involved.
Because I mean, if we are being critical, I think what we would call the low class are the numbers. They have the
Yeah, the
mobility.
masses.
They have the
and
mobility.
they have the willingness to go out in the sun and walk, and
But you do your AC.
one day or see inside and chill.
at least you're okay.
Yeah,
I can't go for protest today. I can't get leave.
yeah.
Exactly.
I wouldn't get a day off, so how can I go?
I mean, some people will be asking that. Oh, do I have sunscreen?
So let me read a few messages. So Sam Moore says, using the Niger election, yes, it has an effect, especially for Peter Obi, but it only affects cosmopolitan areas such as Lagos and Abuja. But his traditional campaign is weak outside such areas where people are not mostly on social media. So he might be misled that he's that popular in the whole of Niger, which is not the case. You got to know about Peter Obi because you are active on social media, but the thousands of others in Niger who are not on social media candidates like Peter Obi get very disappointed in the end because they think they were so popular, but it's in Cosmo areas. The same thing happens in the Brexit. The final results shock the people. And thinking an election is decided on social media is somehow delusional thinking. For some of us who have been on the ground and meet the real people, we have learned our lessons not to judge candidates by social media appeal, but to look at the entire demographic of the country. You can send your social media messages via WhatsApp on 055 111 997, 055 1111 997, 055 1111 997. We're going for a quick commercial break. When we come back, Winston has the news, and we resume the conversation.
So, I'm here with the news. We'll make it super quick because this conversation is super interesting.
sharp, sharp.
So first one, according to reports from NBC News, the New York Times, and Reuters, the U.S. Marshal Service suffered a data breach and ransom attack
Wow.
on February.
ransomware.
Yeah, and on February 17th, hackers gained access to and stole sensitive information related to the agency's employees and the subjects that it's
US
investigating.
who?
U.S. Marshal. So
Wow.
the U.S. Marshal's job is to be the security service for the judicial system.
Mhm.
And now all their data, some of their data has been breached. Thankfully, the Witness Protection Program data was not breached, but they've gotten all the other information on the employees, some of the cases that are being tried, some of the very identifiable information around all the people involved.
Very
in.
interesting.
That is super interesting. Next in the news, Nokia reveals new logo to remind you it doesn't make phones anymore. Now, Nokia is a Finnish telecom company, but it sold its mobile phone production rights to Microsoft in 2014. We all know how that ended, but now Nokia has actually authorized the use of that name for a mobile device to HMD Global. So now the CEO says that he feels like people still think that they make smartphones. They don't. So that's why they have changed their logo. It's the first logo redesign for the company in 60 years.
So there are no Nokia.
Yes.
So you should have made it no Nokia rather than
That would be
maintaining
that would be
Nokia. Because we still have Nokia phones.
well,
What?
yeah. So they've given the brand name to someone else to retail,
But the company
but that
is still,
so that logo will stay the same with that brand.
so the
but the
Nokia
new
phones will stay Nokia.
Nokia with the
But
old
the other
logo.
one is Nokia.
Yes, some very
no
fancy.
Hyundai.
Yeah, fancy. Next in AI news, as always, Snapchat is introducing its own AI based on the latest version of OpenAI's ChatGPT, and they are calling it My AI. Now, the AI will be put at the top of your chat window in Snapchat for users to chat with. My question is why?
I was just about asking the same question. Why?
Yeah, so thankfully it is behind a paywall, so we don't care.
Yeah.
Yes.
That means I have to pay to have it.
Yeah, obviously we won't pay. So thank you. So in a spooky twist, Michael, this is interesting. And what's our dude? Pixel.
Douglas.
Douglas, yes, Douglas. This news is for you in a spooky twist. So some Google Pixels are crashing after playing a specific video on YouTube, as reported by Android Authority. Now, in a Reddit thread, some users reports running into issues with their Pixel 7, Pixel 7 Pro, Pixel 6, Pixel 6 Pro, and Pixel 6a phones. And the video in question is a 2-year-old scene from the classic sci-fi horror film Alien that's available in 4K HDR on YouTube.
What?
So if you are daring, you can go and look for the video. And people said
Ridley Scott.
people said that when they watched the video, their phones automatically rebooted, and some people even lost telecom connection.
Wow.
After that, they had to reboot their devices several times to be able
We are
to
not
get.
alone.
We are not alone. That was very interesting. Next, Netflix is lowering prices in dozens of countries.
Is Ghana included?
This is very interesting. Now the news is saying that not in the US, but I know my Netflix is in the US, and Netflix actually asked me that they were going to upgrade my package but keep the price the same. So they gave me full 4K HDR, but for the same price as 1080p. So that was very interesting. So I don't know why they are saying the US is not part.
Well, you didn't get a discount. You just got a bump.
Yeah, so I could have chosen to keep my plan, but they'll drop
Okay.
the price.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
But they know you won't choose.
To be fair,
Continue.
yeah.
4K heading.
Yeah, 4K is 3 gigabytes per hour. Anyway, so there have been some price cuts but apparently the US is not part. Sometimes so they are saying that the Middle East, Asia, Africa, and parts of Europe where these price cuts are happening. I guess Netflix needs money. So
Yeah, they need money.
in Meta news, Mark Zuckerberg says Meta now has a team building AI tools and personas. Zuckerberg says the company is building AI-powered tools for WhatsApp, Messenger, and Instagram. Meta now has a team dedicated to building tools powered by artificial intelligence. CEO Mark Zuckerberg announced in a post on Monday. This could eventually include AI personas designed to help people in various ways in addition to new AI tools across this app. Do we need this?
Absolutely.
Well, this is the most ubiquitous social media platform, so yeah, we need it. Snapchat, yeah, what are we using AI for in Snapchat?
Okay.
Like, to go and ask it which filter to use.
Put your head on my shoulder.
Oh, a key thing about the Snapchat thing is that they took away some of the capabilities of ChatGPT in their My AI. So you can't take it to class and let it write your exam for you or ask it questions from your exam.
We still don't care about
Yeah,
Snapchat.
so that's the news. Let's keep going.
Yes, and today's tech jargon buster is cookies. Nope, not the chocolate chip cookie that you're probably enjoying.
Or the personality.
Or the personality cookie tea.
Yeah.
Cookies are pieces of information that a website can save in your browser. So are cookies bad? No. Cookies are essential to the operation of the web as we know it and used for many useful, helpful things. However, cookies can also be used for things some people don't like, such as third-party tracking and adverts that seem to follow you around the web. So if you see that you went to that website that you were looking at some things that are very personal, next thing you know, all the adverts are showing those things. It was your cookies. You left a cookie trail and they followed it. Those ads, naughty ads.
Very good information. So anytime I go to a website, then they'll something pop up and say,
Accept
click
all-
OK.
yeah, accept all cookies. Yeah.
So if you accept, then you have accepted that they should know you
Okay.
and
Do
take
you
all
as
the
an
information that you've
So
brought
question
there.
is it good if I say okay?
Well, the
That's
truth
not bad.
it's not bad, and the truth is what they do is they limit your access to the site if you say no.
Yeah, access to whatever data that is that
It
you
is
read.
that you want.
So I
So-
suspected. So most often, if the site is really important, I just click
Allow-
there,
yeah,
okay,
just
and
go.
move on.
Mo-
But should I just do that, or I should always?
If the
What
site
is the
Depends on
advice? What is the
First
advice?
of all, it depends on the website you're going to.
Okay.
If cookies are bad, if we have sort of taken this conversation into cookies, but let's just round
No, but it
up.
ties into the social media thing.
Indeed, it
Yes.
does. So if you go on a website like eBay or Amazon, a shopping website, and you go and search for shaving cream, you'd notice that because you accepted that Amazon or eBay should look at your cookies, now all other ads on the internet that are fed, from like Google and the rest, who know where you came from because of your cookies, are now going to say, okay, he came from this website looking at shaving cream. Let's show him more options in shaving cream. So if you did a search on Peter Obi,
Yes.
there's a high possibility that
You
all his campaign ads will start following you on the internet.
Yeah.
And you start seeing, which then ties into our conversation.
Yeah.
So very perfect segue into our Cambridge Analytica / demographic analytics and psychographic targeted ads. So you know the Cambridge Analytica
Yeah, of
scandal,
course, of
right? Where people were taking tests on Facebook specifically about themselves, and all that information was being collected, mined, and used to target said individuals who took part in these polls with ads that were perfectly targeted to influence their decision, because by taking that poll, they know you now because they asked you a series of questions that was eventually building a persona about you.
The most interesting thing about Cambridge Analytica's work was that after what they'd collated and their profiles they'd drawn up, they said a minimum of 250 data points per US citizen. And when they say data points in this situation, it means that name is one data point. Age is one. That means that
250.
50.
Yes.
Your best friends have that you know
Knew you that much.
250 things.
Wow.
If you ask Cambridge Analytica right now what you would have for dinner tomorrow, I'm sure it could
They
tell
could
you.
guess.
Because predictive analysis.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that AI?
So then I think
Yeah,
it
It
was
was data.
machine learning.
It was machine learning and
yeah,
data analysis.
Data analysis, and then if they had a good system, they could just feed that data. It would
And so what
crunch
did you
it.
do with that data once you know?
That's what they
So
did.
that's what allegedly
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump used in his campaign, because they knew the American people so well. So they knew how to, like he says, psychographic. They knew how to skew their decision making through psychological attacks. Because if I have 250 data points on you, I know you.
Wow.
Where are you
and,
going?
and especially in political words, I know what scares you.
Yeah.
Yes.
What you
So-
don't want.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I start feeding
Into
you
that news about that.
Fear is
news.
powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super.
Super.
That news that these are the things
If you
that
vote
need
for
to
this guy,
yeah.
this
You
thing that you
vote.
don't want to happen will happen.
I mean, same
But
thing.
I'm not saying it directly.
Yeah, Cambridge Analytica did same with Brexit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They did the same thing with Brexit,
exactly
and now
Brexit.
So that's why people say that if they do another referendum, possibly
yes, the decision will be different.
without Cambridge Analytica,
Yeah,
maybe they might.
yeah, because what they fed into was the whole immigration situation where the certain British people felt like their
Wow.
jobs were being taken away. So many people, when you ask them about Brexit, the whole notion was that, yeah, we want to keep our jobs, which is quite funny because America too, that's also one of the narratives that was
But
being.
will that work in a country like Ghana?
It could.
with only 20%.
with only
Well,
yeah.
it
But
could.
here's-
It could affect them because they can tie that to traditional advertising or traditional
Spiky, I haven't reached
campaigning.
you far. What's the message you read before it went on air?
Right.
The person was alluding to the fact that Peter Obi is not known outside the urban center because he's not connecting his campaign with those people. Like he's not going there.
Yeah.
And that is what has been missing. And even when you look at home, Occupy, Flagstaff, Fix the Country, there's no connection between, because what was that? 20% of people online out also, that's what, 6 million Ghanaians online,
Yeah.
out of a population of
30 million.
Yeah,
30,
30,
that's
33
nothing.
mil.
right? So that's a lot of people who don't know what's good. But if like when you get forwarded messages on WhatsApp, your parents see something that scares them and they forward it to you. Don't think that just because they forward it to you, the conversation stops there. I bet you now, while they forward it to you, they're also talking about it physically
Yes.
with their friends. So even those who are not online and seeing these things are hearing it, and they're going to talk about it elsewhere. Because
Yeah.
as I said, fear is a very powerful thing. So they hear about it, they talk about it, and then it spreads around. So even if the person has not been online, they know exactly what.
And to
has
be
been said
fair,
elsewhere.
WhatsApp is not counted as social media per se in the social media analytics. It's
Why?
not really. It's
Because
more of
you
a
can't
messaging.
really- yeah.
It's not. It's more of a messaging app than it is
You can
social
only
media.
do a census on WhatsApp, but you can't necessarily
Get sentiment
even
analysis.
sentiment analysis or even demographic analysis. Now with the introduction of WhatsApp Business, that could change a little bit.
Yeah.
They get some data, but you're not going to get a lot. I think that was what Mark was banking on when he bought it.
Yeah.
That eventually they'll be able to mine data from it.
Which they will soon enough.
Well,
They want to copy WeChat, so yeah.
So I mean, ultimately, social media can have a broader impact if, based on the sentiments they get on social media, they're able to translate it on the ground. So if you know that, okay, by this demographic, we know the people in this area, this is what they like.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
We have 250 data points on those people.
on those
Yeah.
people, on people in that area. So we can now predict that this messaging would resonate with almost all those people. So if, I mean, Evans has an interest, and we know Evans' interest, we can project that Evans and everybody in Evans' neighborhood are probably like him. Possibly, maybe 70% of the people like you. So the messaging targeted at those people would appeal to them and subliminally convince them otherwise.
But I must necessarily be on Facebook or Twitter to be influenced, or are there any
No,
other?
so which is why I'm saying that if you're not, we can depend on someone
Those who are
who is.
closer to me, okay,
Because
that's
we
what
will
they make it.
talk in
Yeah,
person.
because he
and then
definitely talk, and then he could influence you.
me.
He
Yeah.
could show you the video. Come
Hey,
and
would
see
you
this
share?
video. And then you see it and like, hey, no, I don't want this.
Yes.
And then
and
next thing we know, your mind has been changed.
Yes.
But then that triggers another question. So how do you the person who's being influenced see through it? How do you deal with that? I mean, because I mean, you know what I mean. Now he's told me they gathered 200 plus data points. So now I know. So if my friend comes to me, although I'm not on social media, or I'm seeing the thing, now I'm alert. Okay. So how do I deal with it? And I made a point. I was asking you off air that I've been told that sometimes even the Twitter trends can be bought.
Yeah.
It's fake. It's superficial.
Yes.
So how do I deal with all these in a campaign?
You know, I was actually asked this thing when the whole issue of musicians buying views came up, and I'm like, it's the same thing as somebody owning a provision store. You go and burn the thing or bury them and come and say, hey, they bought everything in my store. Who are you lying to? You're
Yeah.
lying to yourself, really. So those who try to, but then again, if you're just going to hide it, creates the illusion of demand. That turns
Yeah.
around to benefit you eventually.
Because that's what most people did with SoundCloud and Spotify.
Yeah.
Because when you get to a certain, most of these platforms, you need a certain threshold number of users, and then the algorithm will just do the rest of the work for you. So they'll pay for those necessary views, then the algorithm will take. So if you have a video that has 10,000 views, YouTube will most likely give it more credence and put it in front of more people than if you have a video with 100 views.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether it is true or not.
Oh, true or not. So that's why.
So how do I?
How do you avoid
as
it?
an electorate?
Exercise on I'll say exercise on skepticism.
and be very aware. I mean, at the end of the day, you know what
Do a
you
lot
want.
of fact checking, really.
Yeah, you know what you want. So we are not going to. Most often, it's not here to change your mind. It's just here to influence your one-time decision making. So just do your due diligence. It's asking a lot. But
just because, and just be willing to accept that, if just because it's not saying the things you want to hear doesn't mean that it doesn't necessarily need to be listened to or it is automatically wrong. Sometimes because it's telling you exactly what you want to hear, oh yes, and like maybe it might not necessarily be correct. Just be a bit skeptical is what I say when it comes to these sorts of things.
So be a bit skeptical. This has been a very interesting conversation.
Very. I've learned a lot.
Psychographic analysis.
Psychographic analysis.
Thank you very much for joining us, Evans.
Thank you for
Michael.
having me.
Thank you, Winston. It was a great conversation. Yes, this has been Geek Squad. If you missed the greater parts of the show, you can find it on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, everywhere on the internet. Just search #Joy Geek Squad. My name is Kobby Spiky Nkrumah. I'll catch you next week on another episode of Geek Squad. Next week is the eve of International Women's Day. We will have a woman host Geek Squad next week. Peace.